Waterboat from Kashmir. Last week, I wrote down pertinent information about the current situation in Kashmir. The pages filled up and I wasn't anywhere close to being done. I called in on Thursday. When Michael asked me what was going on in Kashmir, I was so overwhelmed by what I had written down. I said to Michael, there's so much. Why don't you ask me a question? I'll mention just one aspect now. People that get arrested are gone. No records whatsoever. Prisons and detention camps are overflowing to the point that they have been moving Kashmiris outside of Kashmir to India for 3 weeks now. The biggest occupation weapon that India has is the lack of information about Kashmir, and this black hole of information is amplifying daily. Look, there's good things that Tulsi Gabbard brings to the debate. If you hear, and certainly we don't have a bunch of politicians who are coming out, speaking out about what's going on in Kashmir. They don't all have a record of praising and supporting Modi. But this, I think, is unhelpful to educate people about what's going on in Kashmir. And again, fair is fair. It's not like I've heard, many of the other candidates. I mean, I know Bernie has spoken to it a little bit, but I haven't heard any of the other candidates come out and forcefully make a case for what's going on in Kashmir or calling attention to it. This, making it a little bit of like both sidism is, I think, a little problematic. Play this clip.
On the issue in Kashmir, what is your personal idea as to how we deal with such a complex situation instead of painting it as a black and white issue?
Yeah, well, first of all, recognizing that it is complex.
Pause it for 1 second. I think, here's the question: Is Kashmir a complex question? Of course it is. It has been a complex question for decades. It has been one of the greatest sort of national security concerns for the entire world, right? The world's security.
Right.
What's going on there now is a fairly black and white question. Should this type of oppression be condoned in the form of absolutely no action by the U.S. government? Continue.
First of all, recognizing that it is complex. It is not as clear cut as this one side versus this one side. And I think it's important as outsiders looking in to understand the complex history of Kashmir and what has happened to people there in the past and how many families were driven from their homes there and fled and have not been able to return home. How the previous government had
incidentally, she's talking about she is not talking about these people in Kashmir right now who are being sent to India in the overflowing camps that are, people are being disappeared. She is getting back to the original question. I mean, this is something that the left would never tolerate in terms of the question of Israel and Palestine.
Nope.
And certainly not this type of...
Or Standing Rock, which she went to.
Right. I mean, it's just, there's no candidates that we have that are above criticism. But continue.
And fled and have not been able to return home. How the previous government had policies in place that made homosexuality illegal, that suppressed the voices of women, that made it... I met a woman a couple of days ago who said that she, as a Kashmiri woman, had no rights to own property.
Pause it for 1 second. Incidentally, if you go back and to the summer of 2001, when there were problems with Afghanistan, when the Taliban was not... This is one of the reasons where people at that time were talking about why we should attack Afghanistan, even prior to 9/11. Now, when you arrest people wholesale and put them in prisons, you're also sort of denying them freedom. But go ahead.
Who said that she, as a Kashmiri woman, had no rights to own property there in her homeland. So these changes are things that are happening in a sovereign country. They are very difficult. There are concerns that should be addressed about human rights violations and civil rights violations. But overall, I think this is a situation, again, in a sovereign country that must be worked out by all sides who have a stake in their own future there.
I mean, I don't think anybody's calling for military intervention, but the idea that we wouldn't take a position on this seems to me to be naive. I think there's, I don't think it's naivete that is driving that. I think it's just on a different side of the issue.